Hi there guys, Harvey here from the Red and Blue Site YouTube channel, giving my quick review to that Leicester Palace game. It finished 3-0 to Leicester at the King Power, and oh my god, how I wish the game was abandoned. Let's start off with the team lineup. I thought there were question marks at the very beginning, and it's obviously easy to say in hindsight with the mistakes that we made, and I'll get onto those in a minute, but Sacco coming into the defence was a weird one for me, not just because I kind of put the Liverpool result aside because we were playing Liverpool away. You know, I don't necessarily blame Sacco in that defence for the reason we lost that game. There were some great goals and in general the team would play poorly. But Scott Dann not being in the team, why was he not put in after, you know, that amazing run we had before we went into lockdown? We came out and played brilliantly with Scott Dann and Gary Cahill at centre-back against Bournemouth. And even last game against Burnley, the defeat, it was a mistake of Guaita, and in the end, I didn't actually think Cahill and Dan played too badly. I think that they defended fairly well, limited the actual clear chances at goal that Burnley had. They didn't have too many to speak of, and I really do think if that mistake wasn't made it by Guaita, that we would have gone on to draw that game, or maybe even nick a winner. So why was he dropped for this game? Why was he rotated? If it's because of age, it doesn't make sense to me, because Cahill's a year older. He's 34 years old. Scott Dann's 33, and he's played every game since the restart. Gary Cahill has been brilliant. Scott Dann's been brilliant. I think they're our #1 partnership until Tompkins comes back. So weird why he was taken out of the lineup for me. Chiarte, I can understand, maybe he had a slight knock and he was rotated for that reason. I thought Riedewald played really well as well. Well, I say really well. He was probably our best player, playing okay for large parts of that game. But I thought that Sacco choice was a weird one. And obviously, it turns out to be a really costly one, because looking at the game itself, the first half, I thought it was quite even, to be honest. It didn't look, although we lost 3-0, I think it was quite a harsh scoreline because of the way both teams played. I thought we were both quite poor. Really, there weren't any chances to speak of the first half. It was an incredibly dull first half. No chances to speak of, really. Leicester had a couple more shots than Palace, but nothing really worth talking about. And yeah, it was a boring first half. Not the end of the world, really, for us. To make it a boring game and 0-0 at half-time away to Leicester, that's all we've got to do, really. I wasn't too upset with the approach to the game. The problem always is when we go 1-0 down playing that way, because we look so void of ideas up front. Even with Benteke coming in, which I thought was a plus, I said on the preview on my channel, I thought that was a real plus, him coming back into the team up front. It gives us more of a focal point, and today he did win all the headers that came his way. He won all the flick-ons. But even with that, we didn't look like we were creating anything. We didn't seem to have any ideas going forward. Wilf looked lacklustre. He was passing it back all the time, wasn't willing to take on men. I don't know if he had a knock. Ayew wasn't his best. When we had the ball in the defence and we played it into a midfielder, instantly when Leicester started pressing, we played it back. And we didn't have midfielders and attackers running into spaces, trying to give options to the midfielders. Which is, you know, and because of that lack of movement up front and the lack of willingness to want the ball, you know, to come and get the ball, the midfielders had to turn and play it back to the defence. And it was a very stop and start, restart, you know, sort of approach to the game, especially in the second half and as well as the first half, and it made it such a dull affair. And obviously, when I said when we go 1-0 down, a clanger from Guaita. He's got to collect that ball. He was in no man's land. Really poor from him. 2 mistakes in a row, and he's got to, you know, people have got to give him a rocket up his arse, you know, and tell him, you know, you've got to sort yourselves out. He shouldn't be dropped. Any suggestions he should be dropped is ridiculous to me. He's been our player of the season, in my opinion. But 2 mistakes in a row, he'll be disappointed with that. He'll need to sort that out quickly. We don't want any more of those. And unfortunately, because of that mistake, as I mentioned already, going 1-0 down, it made that lack of creativity up front was exploited even more. And we just never looked like getting back into the game. And then Sacco, as we've already mentioned, does something stupid. It's the risk you've got to take with Sacco. He's probably one of our best ball-playing, he's probably our best ball-playing defender, realistically. He makes some really great killer through balls from the defence, where he punches a pass in, takes the attack and the midfield of the opposition out the game, and can split the midfield with a great ball into one of the attacking players, who can then turn and run, and he can start a counter-attack like that, and he's very good at that. Downside is, because of that confidence that he has on the ball, that almost arrogance he has on the ball, he'll try and do something. And if it doesn't pay off, all of a sudden, you know, we're under immense pressure. And that's unfortunately what happened today. No need to do a Cruyff turn there. We're 1-0 down. Best to play it long. I know you want to try and pick a pass, but there was no pass there. So that's why I tried to Cruyff turn it back. to play it back to the keeper. But that would have put Guaita under pressure. There was just no scenario there where playing it back was the right thing to do. He had to play it along and tap in for Vardy for a 100th goal, and then that was game over for there. The third one was just, a counter-attack. But all in all, poor performance, and my main thing from it was just individual errors. We had an individual error against Burnley when that cost us the game, in my opinion. We would have probably got a point at least out of that game if it wasn't for that. And it's a similar sort of scenario here. If we didn't concede such a sloppy, stupid mistake of a goal to go 1-0 down, I do think we would have gone on to get something out of the game, because Leicester weren't great. They didn't have to work for those goals today. And as I mentioned, 3-0 is a flattering scoreline for Leicester, but we were still incredibly poor. Don't get me wrong, the loss was deserved, but my God, it looks like we're playing. It looks like the lads are on the beach at the moment, and that's a shame. And substitution, congratulations to Mitchell for getting his debut. Only 8 minutes. Downside to that, when you're losing and you're clearly not going to get back in the game, I don't know why Roy doesn't just chuck on Pierre